Hey, what's up, Ocean Point? Thanks for tuning in for our virtual service. I'm here with my friend Troy. We're going to be hanging out with you for a while today. But before we jump into our message, I wanted to let you know about a couple of things. First of all, after the message, hang around because we're going to have an opportunity for you to take communion together. So if you have you have the supplies to be able to take communion, go ahead and get that ready. You can do that after the message. Also, we'll have an opportunity for worship. Another thing to let you know about is that we have a cool opportunity to serve our collegiate ministry, Sojourn Collegiate Ministries. They're looking at ways to try to love on some of the new college students who are coming in this year, and they've asked for us to donate prepackaged snacks that they can then take to them. So over the next week, if you can drop off prepackaged snacks at our new building, 66 Valley. We'll post details about exactly when and how to do that. But if you can do that, that'd be an amazing, simple way to love on our community. Also, if you've not plugged into a home church yet, if you're watching this by yourself and you think, man, I'd love to be able to watch this with some other people, to be able to be in some community, then go to our website, go to the app, look for a way to connect in home church so that you can be a part of this with others. Now, before we jump into our message, I'm really excited because I want to share this next baptism with you. Here we go.
Jesus, you saved our lives. Victory shine.
All right, hey, Ocean Points, that was so exciting to be able to share that baptism. And I'm really excited to be able to be here with you today with my friend, Troy Parsley. And Troy, I was thinking about it, and we've now been friends for 17 years. I'm just going to say it's probably been the best 17 years of your life. That's my assumption there with that. Now we're sitting in a car right now, and there's a few different reasons why we are filming from a car. One of the reasons is this, Troy. One of my most vivid memories with you is in a car many years ago. Do you have any guesses as to what that memory might be?
The Strawberry Festival.
The Strawberry Festival. So roughly 16 years ago, we went with Troy and Christine Parsley, my wife Rachel and I did, and we went to the Strawberry Festival. On the way home for a good hour or so,
Yeah.
Rachel and I, we didn't have kids at the time, and we were exposed to what it was like to ride in the back seats next to a screaming child for over an hour. Yeah. And I know you guys, you were really surprised that we had kids.
Yeah.
After that.
I figured that ruined it.
This is where having a bad memory comes in pretty handy for myself. And so that's one of my most vivid memories with you. And now here's something that just blows my mind. That same small child who was in the back seat with us coming home from the Strawberry Festival has now transitioned to the front seat behind the steering wheel.
Right.
And you are teaching your son how to drive right now.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's pretty crazy. He's doing well. Just starting out, just learning, but he's doing all right, and doing a lot better than he did, you know, his first few times drive against a little kid. But he's doing really well.
Now, have you gone onto the open road yet, or are you sticking to the parking lot?
No, just a parking lot, thankfully, because he's still learning, you know, how to gently come to a stop with the brakes and how to operate the steering wheel properly. So we're still working on that.
Have there been any moments where you in the passenger seat were like pressing that imaginary brake pedal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even in the parking lot?
As we were approaching a parked car at a pretty good speed, that was definitely time for the passenger brake. Yeah.
Have you ever reached for the emergency brake just to like grab it and kind of go with that?
No, he did ask if we could do drifting in the parking lot though, so maybe he's gonna try that someday.
Better to learn from you, right, than his friends.
Well, I don't know that he would learn anything from me. I've never done it.
Gives you an excuse to learn. Like you're just telling Christine, honey, I'm gonna go out drifting.
We're going drifting.
I'll be back in a little while.
Put my neons.
How has it felt to not be in control, to kind of just give up that control?
Yeah, that's a little weird. It definitely, I don't even like, riding in the car with other people who are experienced drivers, let alone trying to teach Nathan. So, yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking, knowing that he could just keep right on pressing that accelerator when he needs to move over to the brakes. And so, yeah, it's definitely a little scary.
There's a lot of trust that we put in the hands of someone else when we're riding with them, right? In regards to trusting that they're going to turn, push the brake when they need to, all of those different things. I'm curious, and you guys type in an answer as you're watching this, but are any of you the kind of person that you have to be the driver? It doesn't matter where you're going, right? You immediately, you always volunteer to drive because you can't be in the passenger seat. And I'm not talking about, some people have an issue like maybe getting car sick or whatever, but it's a control thing. Like, nope, if we're going somewhere, I am driving. So yeah, let me know if that's you. So I want to talk a little bit today about power. Now usually when we think about power and we talk about power, what we mean is influence. We think about powerful celebrities or powerful, people of wealth, and they have this lots of influence. But that's not the kind of power that I think affects most of us on a day-to-day basis. The kind of power that I'm talking about is a power of influence. It's a power. It's not a power of influence. It's a power of control. It's a power of autonomy. Basically just meaning that we desire to be able to make decisions for ourselves. We are not a big fan of when other people make decisions for us. And we like to, within our safe little world, be able to exert our own force on the things around us and demonstrate that we have power and we have control. I think one of my favorite examples is in the movie You've Got Mail. And I don't know if you guys have seen the movie You've Got Mail. For a while, I was kind of embarrassed to say, like, I really like that movie. But I'm just going to say it's one of the top 10 movies ever made. Right? It's there. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about, is there ever been a movie that you've watched and after it, you felt like that was time I will never get back? For me, The Godfather. I'm putting it out there. I'll say it. I finally watched it and I got done and I thought, that's it. That's it. So I will watch You've Got Mail 20 times before I will watch The Godfather again with that. But in You've Got Mail, there he talks about just this desire for people, like when they go to a coffee shop, when they go to a Starbucks, and they have these very custom drink orders, no whip, extra frap, all these different things. And it's just this opportunity for us as human beings to just demonstrate control and making a decision as a part of that. And I think that's us, right? We want to be able to make decisions. We want to be able to have autonomy. And when we're teaching our kids to drive, I'm not at that point yet. We're a couple of years away from teaching our oldest to drive. That's a key demonstration, a key opportunity of giving up that autonomy and saying, you get a chance to drive. I'm going to sit over here, and to not try like reach over and grab the steering wheel every 2 minutes, to press the brake, to shift the gear into neutral, whatever it might be as a part of that. And it can be our kids, right? It can be other things too. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever had like a new boss who's taken over and you felt like they were completely incompetent or they had no clue what was going on, and yet you were at their mercy. You had to kind of bend to whatever they decided to do. And it's just not easy. And so right now, in the middle of this COVID-19 world, we are surrounded by so many times of not being in control, of just saying autonomy gone, other people making decisions for me every single day. I'll ask you another question. within the context of COVID-19, have there been any rules or regulations or things that were not in your control that you just struggled to follow, you struggled to comprehend the why behind it?
Pretty much every regulation, COVID-19 regulation, because
I'm glad you said something, because if you said no, I'm good. It's all
been
great.
great.
I love it.
I love
Then this would have
having
been a
people
really
tell me what I can
awkward
and can't.
moment right now, right here.
No, every one of them has been a challenge. I'd say in particular, the travel restrictions are really difficult. The fact that we can't go and visit, nearby states and cities and stuff, is frustrating. But it's also just frustrating because there's not any clear evidence as to whether it's really been effective. So whether or not it's really helping, a lot of these restrictions is frustrating. Yeah.
So, no matter where you lie on that, whenever decisions are made for you, you just kind of lose that control. And if you've ever struggled with the power of autonomy, man, that's really being put to the test to an extreme right now. And many of you might be longing for the day that you were fully in control. Back in the day. Oh, remember, I longed for those days when I was fully in control. But what I want to challenge you with today is this. What if? What if it was all an illusion? What if you were never in control to start with in the first place? And so we're going to talk a little bit today about a guy named Moses. And Moses was who God chose to lead the Israelite people, the Hebrew people, out of Egypt after they had been slaves for 400 years. And God comes to them, and this is what we read in Exodus chapter 3, in verses 7 and 8. It says this, Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. This land flowing with milk and honey. Now, that's not necessarily like a description today that would be like, oh, that's like the new up and coming area. Like, I can't wait to see what kind of subdivisions they build there, what kind of housing. That's where, the high demand is. There's so much milk, there's so much honey. But that would have resonated with the people there, especially coming out of Egypt and coming out of slavery. And they'd been there for hundreds of years. And I'm sure there's a part of them that was just thinking, man, well, okay, this is great, but like, where were you? God is saying, like, hey, I'm here. I hear you. And if that's a question that you wrestle with, I mean, that's a valid question. And they were there. But now in this moment, they're given a couple of promises. The first promise that we see that God gives them is just a simple promise that he cares. He hears them, and that he cares. He's aware. He's not, if you've been on a plane in a flight and there's, again, another crying child somewhere, and you see people just put on their noise canceling earphones, just like, I'm gonna pretend like I don't hear anything. I am unaware. It's that person you see in need, whether it's a homeless person begging or whatever, and you just pretend like, hey, if I don't make eye contact, they don't exist, right? God's saying, no, that's not the way I'm approaching this. I hear you. I'm aware, and I care. I'm affected by it, and that he is affected by the way that his children were hurting. And for those of you who are parents, you would know that, like, when your child hurts, you hurt. And he's demonstrating this. He's saying this, and this is an opportunity for God to demonstrate this idea of empathy. Empathy and sympathy are different things. Empathy is saying, like, hey, I feel what you feel, and it puts you in this position of caring. Sympathy sometimes can just come across as almost like this negative thing of looking down. Oh, I have sympathy on that person. But it's this empathic nature, and that when we are able to be an empath like that and reach out to a friend who's hurting, it's one of the ways that we're able, I think, to reflect who, like, God is and God's nature as a part of this. But he gives a second promise as a part of this, and the second promise is land, the promised land. You're going to come out of Egypt, and I'm going to give you this land. And with this land, it's a promise, but there's also a responsibility that this is going to be a land that you use to bless the entire world with from this. And so God gave them these really big promises, but as they were given these promises, they also faced some extreme challenges, some extreme obstacles, some big problems. And this is what often happens with us in our lives, where we have these promises, but we also have problems. And when our problems and our promises come head to head, so often we forget about the promise and we focus on the problem as a part of that. And that's what we see happens with the Hebrew people. When their problems come up, they lose sight. Their challenges seem too big. So as they're getting ready to go into the promised land, they send some spies into the land, and they come back, and two of them say, hey man, we can do this, but the others say, no, we can't. This land will devour us. And so here's the response that we get from the Hebrew people. It says, then all the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The whole congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land to fall by the swords? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. And then they say something that I feel like this is that thing that when they said this, that God was probably like, I'm sorry, you said what? Because they said this, would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt? He rescues them from centuries of slavery. But they want to go back. Why? It was familiar. If you've ever worked on potty training a young child, there often can be this stage where like they've learned how to use a toilet, but yet they still choose to poop in their own diaper. And it doesn't make sense, right? You're like, you can be clean, you can, but there's almost this desire where they're like, no, I'm going to sit in my poopy diaper because if nothing else, it's warm and it's mine, right? You know, it's this level of familiarity, this level of comfort for that. And they're like, I mean, we were slaves, we had no freedom, we were beaten, we were killed, you know, sometimes, but we know what it is. And I think sometimes as we think about this whole COVID-19 world, we get caught into this mindset of, I can't wait for things to go back to the way that they were. Oh, back to the good old days, back in February, right? You know, like when the world was great, when everything was grand. Was it really?
Right.
Is that what we really if that's our top goal, is for things to get back to the way that they were? That's not very exciting. And I don't think that's the way that things will end up. I believe that this is an opportunity, and God can use this opportunity for us to not just get back to normal, but for us to get into a position that is better than it was before. Something where we can see that it's greater than that. And ultimately what the Hebrew people had to do, what we have to do, is embrace our place. Embrace our place in our role with God. So like when you're driving with your child, right, in the driver's seat there, you have to give up that control. You have to sit over here, and you have two options. You can sit over here and be stressed the entire time. You know, like grabbing, and just like your blood pressure is going through the roof. You've got like veins in your head just like pulsating as a part of all that, and it's the most horrible experience. You go home with a migraine, and you don't know if you even love your child anymore, right? That's one option. Or you can choose to sit back and enjoy the ride. To be there as a guidance, make sure nothing crazy or stupid happens, but to be there. Now, for that, we need to be able to operate in a different kind of system. So when it comes to the way that we perceive God, I think often we see our relationship with God as more of a closed system. And what I mean by that is, in a closed system, if A happens, then B happens. If X, then Y. And we think, hey, here's the formula for if I do this, then I can get this to happen. But God doesn't operate like that. It's more of this open system. You know, it's if God, it should just be if God, then me. Whatever God has kind of in play there, then me. I will be there, and I will follow, and I will submit, and I will enjoy the ride. And so we have to be open to the direction that he wants us to go. I have to be open to the direction that he wants me to go. And so Israel needed to embrace their place. We need to embrace our place as well. And this problem, it didn't end as they were trying to approach the promised land. So if you're not familiar with the story, what happens next is they express this doubt. And they're like, oh no, we can't do it. And so God says, all right, 40 years, you're going to wander in the wilderness. 40 years. That's quite the punishment. It's basically an entire generation just to be gone as a part of that. Now in the Bible, there's a lot of symbolism behind the number 40. We see it in several different places. And it's always symbolic of a time of testing and a time of trial. And I found this to be impactful specifically for me, because this year I turned 40. And so I'm kind of aware of this number 40. And I've shared with you all that I spent some time at a clinic and at a mental health clinic as a part of working through burnout and working through depression and different things. And if you haven't heard about that, jump back 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, you can see that message. And but I was there for 40 days. I had the option of being there for 42 days, but I just said, I want to cut it off at 40, not because it's some magical formula of if I do this, then this will happen, but it's the symbolic nature of a time of testing, time of purification, and trial as a part of all of this. And so 40 years they have to wander in the wilderness. And the struggle for the Hebrew people to embrace their place in all of this, it doesn't end just with that. It goes all the way into the time of Jesus. It goes after Jesus ascends into heaven, and when we see one of Jesus's key followers, Peter, he says this in one of the letters that he wrote that we call 1 Peter. And in 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 6 and 7, he just says this: "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you." Not at your time, not at your scheduled time, not at the, hey, we said that the pandemic would be over by X date, that we'd be in school by whatever date. No. At the appointed time that we would see this. And I've lost my place here. At the proper time, he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And so we come full circle. The first promise is that God cares for you. We see that back when he's talking to the Hebrew people and getting ready to rescue them out of Egypt. We see this when Peter's talking about all of this. And so when it comes to this, we can choose to stress out and want to grab control of the steering wheel and just want to be there for that, or sit back. We can enjoy the ride as a part of all of this. But I get it. Like, it's not just like this switch that you can flip, right? Of like, oh, okay, oh, that's great. Okay, so I won't care anymore. I get it. It's not going to happen like that. It's not for me. Because what we see is that it's all about trust. And trust requires confidence. And confidence requires experience. So the more you drive with Nathan, the more experience you have, the more confidence you have, the more you trust his driving ability, and the more you'll find yourself at some point him driving on the interstate and you're checking ESPN on your phone, right? Without a worry.
Mm-hmm.
That's not today. If you were to pull out on the Valley Road right now with him, I'm guaranteeing you're not looking at your phone at all, except for you have like 9-1 dialed, right? You're just ready to go. So we need that experience.
Yeah.
The same is true for our relationship with God and our time with God. So this will be my challenge for you, for me, for all of us, is to be cognitive of the times that God has come through for us. Maybe it's keeping a journal and writing down these different things, because the more we see God come through for us, the more experience we have with that, the more confidence we have that he will be there for us as a part of this. So that we're not necessarily sitting, worrying, stressing about wanting to take over the steering wheel. Instead, we can just sit back and relax in our seats. I was going to actually recline, but that, oh, there it is. Yes. I wasn't pulling up the handle far enough. I won't finish the sermon like that. I'll come up here as part of that. So thanks again for being a part of this. And if anything you heard today just seemed to strike a chord, maybe go back and listen at some of the previous weeks as well. Now, as we wrap up, I want to share something with you, and it's going to feel a little awkward, but it's something I recorded separately. So as weird as this might sound, I'm going to kick things over to me. Hey everyone, I am coming to you from what will be the main entrance to our new building, kind of here underneath the steel canopy that's being constructed right now. There's all kinds of exciting things that are happening here at our new property. But I wanted to take a minute and just kind of have a family talk with you for a little bit. And this is one of those talks within any family that it needs to happen, but every time it happens, everyone's just kind of like, it's the budget talk. And I've got some good news when it comes to budget and some not so good news when it comes to our budget. The good news is this. Now, when we started off in January of 2020, we had a weekly need of our budget of just under $14,000 a week. Now, the world has just completely transformed and changed during that entire time. And just like you, we've kind of reevaluated our budget. A lot has changed and a lot has transpired. And so what we have done is we've been able to go from about $14,000 a week and have whittled it down to about $10,000 a week, which is incredible. And we've got an amazing finance team that have been working hard on this. That's the good news. The not so good news is that even though we've been able to go from $14,000 to $10,000 a week, our weekly average giving right now is about $7,000 a week. And we want to be sensitive to everyone's dynamics and situations, but what we've seen is that the biggest hit for that is what used to be on-site giving. People who would give on a Sunday morning when we would gather together. And a lot of those people haven't transitioned over. So maybe that's you. And if you've not made that shift yet to either maybe mailing in your giving, or even better yet, using the app or our website to set up electronic on-site or automated giving, then I would encourage you to do that. And maybe it's just an opportunity, if you've never given, to give for the first time, so that you can partner with us in being able to share the hope of Jesus with our community here. So that's our finance update, that's our budget update, and my hope is that you would be willing to join us in helping to meet our weekly need to share the hope of Jesus with our community.
Let's worship together, church.
Never knew death could be so sweet. Never knew surrender feel so free. Never seen such meekness in majesty. The blood of Jesus was bled for me, and now I see freedom for all of my days. It's only by the power of the cross I'm raised. The King of Glory rescued me. How beautiful the blood flow. How merciful the love shown. The King of Glory poured out. Victorious are we never knew these nails would love unfold. Never knew these wounds would heal my soul. Never seen such beauty and sorrow bleed. Blood of Jesus was bled for me, and now I see freedom for all of my days. It's only by the power of the cross I'm raised. The King of Glory rescued me. How beautiful the blood flow. How merciful the love shown. The King of Glory poured out. Victorious are we now. And now I see freedom for all of my days. It's only by the power of the cross I'm raised. The King of Glory rescued me. How beautiful the blood flow. How merciful the love shown. The King of Glory poured out. Victorious are we now. How beautiful you are. How merciful you are. How glorious you are. Christ the Savior. How beautiful you are. How merciful you are. How glorious you are. Christ the Savior.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name still, call the sea to still. The rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. rescue